everybody, this is the Drop the Beat podcast. My name is Charles Laurita.
And I'm Will Sarver.
We want to thank you guys so much, as we do every single week now, for our 20th episode. This is our 20th episode.
I think you're right.
Which is bananas.
Big
I think
2-0.
I'm definitely right, because I had to check before we started recording because I didn't want to mess up and sound like an idiot, and then we have to edit over top of it.
That's because preparation's key.
It is always key.
That's what we're about.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to thank you guys, and I know Will wants to thank you guys every week so far for these past 20 plus weeks, because we skipped a couple in between, of just listen to us beat off, and then in the more recent weeks watching us beat off, and hopefully beating off with us. I think that's very important.
20 is a lot.
That's a lot of beating, man.
Yeah.
We've really, since we've started this thing, I think our beating off has just become more professional. It's become a lot more frequent. I know mine has.
It's
a lot
cleaner. Yeah.
And I think we're getting better because now it's been a little longer that we last, I think, with our...
Right. Right. I think you're right. It's helping build our stamina. I think that's what you're going for.
That's pretty much what I was going for.
Yeah.
I really apologize if there's any children listening to this, because I hear sirens.
You're welcome. I called them.
I was going to say, hopefully you guys have your cup of tea with us today. We got some teas going on right now. He got a little spooky skelly one. I got my Sally one. So I'll take a little
cheers.
Bit. Cheers right there. I got peppermint.
Are we going to do another obnoxious sip?
I think it's only proper at this point.
Right.
So everyone, please just crank that volume really
go.
quick. Hold on. Here we go. Oh.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
Something about the shape of this mug was very high-pitched.
I hate the character mugs like this because the ridges round over and they are impossible to drink out of.
Yeah, this had a very funny tone.
Yeah, I kind of purposely picked these because I knew it would be really comical.
Man. Well, that's it for 20th episode.
Yeah, that was a great episode. That was a short one. But they can't all last. Sometimes it's performance issues, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Jumped the gun early. That's.
I got peppermint tea in mine. What do you have? Green tea?
I think I have green.
Cool.
I don't deviate too often.
That's okay. Yeah, I did a little peppermint because I was like, what's better than drinking a cup of tea and having the feeling like you just brushed your teeth? I think it's just really great.
Some say you don't have to brush your teeth after that.
I usually don't. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's great.
1 in 10 dentists recommend it.
Yeah, I'm really trying to go full Jack Sparrow, and I feel like that's the quickest way.
It's suitable. It suits you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But have you been? How was your because this is now the day after Halloween in a very weird COVID world. How was your Halloween?
So I was actually pretty impressed with the turnout.
Good.
People still showed up, came out, did their thing, and the weather was kind of nice. A little chilly. I liked it.
It wasn't bad. We were bundled up when we kind of went out and we did like a group Mario Kart costume.
Yeah, I saw. It's pretty awesome.
It was passable.
Yeah.
I made PVC carts that went around us with like suspenders, and it was very cool. I'd like to think I excel at practical arts and crafts.
You do, but especially the macaroni art.
I'm pretty good popsicle sticks.
It's
I'm really good
real
popsicle
good.
sticks. But then like anything in like the practical world, like taxes. I don't know what that is.
Don't pay them.
No, I don't know. No, who cares?
Yeah.
But so that was fun. But yeah, I adore Halloween. I love it, and everyone's it's like everyone has that kind of mindset where it's like, oh, it's the one day of the year, so take your skeletons down, put your skulls away, and stop with the pumpkins. I'm like, that's not how it works at all.
You're right.
It's not. The day after Halloween's not Christmas. It doesn't work like that. I always had one of my students' parents where she was always like, you wear that skull bracelet every day, and you always have the shirts and the necklaces and the rings and the skulls. And why are you doing that? It's not Halloween. And I'm like, sorry, ma'am. Do you not have a skeleton inside of you literally the entire year?
That's a great point.
As she fell onto the floor in a giant puddle of skin and organs because she did not.
She didn't.
She didn't. It was very disgusting. And they were like, get the mop and the Swiffer. And I did.
Yep. Swiffer wet jet.
She was what they call a wop. She was a wet-ass person. And we had to.
Okay.
It was the mop and the bucket, as
right.
the song lyrics say.
I heard the song once.
Yeah. I think I need Jesus.
We all need him.
We do.
We really do.
Good Lord. But anyway, enough about that wop and the skeletons and the woman turning into a puddle and my really fun pumpkin shirt over here, jack-o'-lantern shirt.
Right. Great pumpkin over here.
Oh, baby. Yeah. let's talk.
Let's chat.
I think we should. I
should.
think we owe it to the people here. I've kind of loved what this has turned into because we were, taking a lot of questions in the beginning, and now it's kind of just we're getting a decent amount, and we're kind of just pushing the questions together into one giant question smorgasbord.
I love a good one.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I think is great.
It's great.
A lot of now. I know you've been getting these a lot. I've been getting these as well. We've talked about inspirations before, which is important. We've always said things about people in our life and things like that. But inspirations also come from your favorites and kind of, what you enjoy in music. And a lot of people have been asking, what's your favorite album or what are your favorite albums and why? And that's such an awesome open-ended question. I think it's, a lot of people are always like, oh, yeah, this one song or this artist. And it's like, but an album is such a special thing because it's everything that works. Like, I seldom have, any albums that I really consider to be perfect or things like that, where it's like everything just works. Like, everything is a great song. Nothing is a filler. There's tons of songs I listen to or tons of albums I listen to, and they have filler songs where it's like they needed a track. And it's like a lot of work wasn't put into this kind of thing.
Especially now, I think.
Oh, 1,000%
Yeah.
now. Albums aren't necessarily as impressive of a presence as they were way back when. I think just because everything is streaming and everything is singles and everything is Spotify getting boned by that.
Right. Yeah. I think everybody's trying to get a single.
Which is fine.
Right. But like you said, back in the day, like making an album was a huge ordeal and expense.
Or just do what Michael Jackson did and have every song good enough to be a single on your album.
That's
every
the
song
ultimate.
just charts. I mean, that's
right.
That's very, very important. But yeah, I think just the artistry going into, making an album is it is an art. It really, really is an art. And I think there is, it really kind of depends because, again, it's very subjective, very objective when you get into this kind of territory about it. But, because I can think off the top of my head a lot of them that I like or a lot of them that I've listened to tons and tons of times. And a lot of people, with you and I, our favorite artists wouldn't necessarily expect is one of our favorites compared to what we play or anything like that.
That's a good point.
But I think the one thing I've gotten more into, because I was very heavy, I got... when I was in high school, I got my iPod. I was late to the iPod game. So I got mine in my sophomore year. And that was cool. But the problem is I would just beeline back to the same 20 songs I've been listening to for the past however many years. And I would just listen. So now that in my old-ass fucking car, I have my CD player. So I will literally go to, we have close to us in central New Jersey, which does exist. It's called the Princeton Record Exchange in the town of Princeton. And there's all super cheap CDs, and I'll be like, oh, I like this one song by this band. I'll go in, and I'll buy the whole album that song's on, and I'll put it in my car, and it's kind of cool because it forces me to listen to the whole thing. And I always try to do, one or two go-throughs of the album to get used to it before I'm like, okay, now I'm going to just start individually picking songs from this thing.
Right. And you may find some gems on there that you didn't really realize.
1,000%.
That's a nice part. And I love getting into your car and then
you never know what it's going to be.
I never know what it's going to be, and it's something different, and then I get to read the liner notes because that's my favorite.
I was going to say, I always leave the jewel case out because I always say, fun fact for everyone at home, I always prefer to drive, not anything against Will. Will's a great driver. I get car sick. I get tummy gurgles, and it's not great. So whoever I'm with, I usually always drive just because. But yeah, I always leave. I've gotten used to leaving the jewel case out because you always read the liner notes. Or sometimes I'll always be like, oh, who did this? Oh, who played on this track?
Yeah.
Like something like that. And it's really amazing because a lot of people, especially when you're listening to more solo artists, don't give the band itself enough credit.
1,000%.
So one of my favorite albums, and we were looking at the liner notes, one of my favorite albums, it's easily in my top 10. I really like Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. That had all her radio hits on. Literally every song on that charted at number 1 at one point. They were all on the radio. Everything was a single. Everything was fucking good. That band on that album is phenomenal.
They're really good. Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know Flea played bass a lot on that album. Dave Navarro from Alice in Chains.
Some heavy hitters.
Yeah. He was on there. Or not Alice in Chains, Jane's Addiction. I was close. He played,
Yeah,
and he played with the Chili Peppers a lot too, or maybe he did play with Alice in Chains at one point. I don't know. He played with everybody, but he played a lot on that album. Like there was a lot of good players on that album. And I remember we were finding that out because we were driving, and you picked up the liner and started going through it, and like you get a lot of heavy hitters on that album.
I was really surprised to see some of those names that popped up on.
I never knew.
But then it kind of adds up. It makes sense.
That's why
the part of the album is so dynamite. Yeah,
I mean it's stuff you'd never expect.
Yeah,
which I think is important. I think the other one that I always like, because again, it's me being a 30-year-old human being, and a lot of people being like, well, you listen to the Spice Girls, and it's like, and I always say, dude, the bands on this album though, it's like this is a disco album. Like this is essentially it's a disco album, it's a dance album, and it's like the players they have on that album are phenomenal. Like that's what I'm always like, and it's also they actually wrote most of their own stuff, which is cool, or at least the lyric portion, which that I think is great because you don't get that a lot with a lot of songwriters nowadays.
Oh no.
Just so everyone at home knows, Wet Ass Pussy was in fact written by a man, and it was not written by Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion. I don't know if you knew.
Gosh.
Granted, she performed it lovely, but it really wasn't written by her.
I am stunned by this news.
I am too. And for all of you at home, that's what WAP actually stands for. I've come to learn.
I'm gonna have to
cross
sip.
myself a couple times. Do need Jesus a little bit. If I didn't already need him before.
Oh, we need him now.
Now more than ever. But so it's and obviously not to put anyone down, but now that everyone has this technology to make an album in their house, in their bedroom,
right here,
got FL Studio. You pop that fucker on and you make beats and you clone stamp. And granted, there are people who are really good at it. Like,
yeah.
But again, I listen nowadays and I'm like, some of these beats are cheap, cookie cutter kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back and I'm like, if you want to learn how to work a drum machine, go listen to any Quincy Jones album that he did for Michael Jackson, because that's how you do a drum machine. Because after Off the Wall, which is my favorite Michael Jackson album, which that was like the real
knew that
band.
Was coming up.
Dude, that is a slamming album. The kids say a bop. That whole album is a bop. Like front to back.
Is that a thing? A bop?
They say that. Yeah, some of my younger students, they'll be like, oh, this is a total bop. And I was like, what does that mean? Because I'm thinking bebop, and I'm like, that's not what this is. Yeah, I'm thinking like Coltrane, and they're like, oh, this is a total bop. And it's like, okay, so you're trying to make like a 50s term. It's
all right,
kids, man.
It's a bop.
I'm pulling up Urban Dictionary like every 5 seconds. I'm like, what is this wop they keep talking? Oh, this song's a wop? Is that what they said? I don't know, but Off the Wall's phenomenal. That was Louis Johnson played bass on that album, and he's one of my absolute favorites. Him, and then James Jamerson,
of course,
of Motown fame and the Funk Brothers. Like, those are my two dudes. Louis Johnson is phenomenal, and he was kind of like the bass-wise, like the Ringo of their thing, where wasn't a monstrous player, but he played what was needed, and he's really goddamn good at it. I mean, I can't say he's not a good player, because that dude could play like just nobody's business. But it's funny because then after that, they pretty much went to a drum machine. I mean, Michael Jackson had a band live, but on his albums, he went to drum machines, like the Thriller album, the Bad album, all that kind of stuff. But he had some really good talent on it, and Quincy Jones knew what he was doing.
He's the man.
To have a jazz dude come in and do pop records like that was like a really big thing. Like, that was huge news when that happened.
Yeah, it's unusual at that time.
It was very unusual, but I mean, Quincy's no slouch. Like, he knew what he was doing, and that was the best part.
Perfect.
Because Michael could come to Quincy recording his stuff. So a lot of people don't know Michael Jackson played piano and guitar too, which a lot of people don't know that. And he would come to Quincy with like, these 8-track recordings of him just in a studio beatboxing and doing all these vocal parts for instrumentation, and being to Quincy like, can we do this? And Quincy would make it work. And that's why a lot of those songs have very weird chord progression, but they're really good.
They
like
work.
That,
yeah.
Oh my God. I love that. So if we're in, because that's very, disco-y, very funk kind of dance stuff. If we're in that kind of realm, or in that kind of bands or horn bands or anything, are there any albums that you really truly favor from that?
From that time period?
Or more so genre or kind of thing like that? Because I know you're very heavy into that.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's going to come up at some point, but, Stevie's gonna be.
I was waiting for
It's-
it. I was waiting.
It has to be said.
Yes.
You know.
Want that. You want to talk about the greatest jazz musician ever have a pop career? That guy. Absolutely. That guy is a national treasure.
Yes, he seems like the sweetest person ever.
Yeah.
And can do everything really, really, really well.
Yeah. So I was talking to one of my students about him recently because we were talking about what's called the whole tone scale. And the whole tone scale, for all of you theory nerds at home, before I push you in a locker and take your lunch money for knowing what this is. Essentially, a whole tone scale, it's every note is spaced with a whole step. So if you were looking at a guitar, it would be every note has one fret in between it and has a really weird sound.
It's
very
crazy.
seldom used in like contemporary pop music, and he uses it in stuff. And he's like one of the only people I've ever really heard in like pop music or R&B to use it, and it's really goddamn cool. It's in "You Are the Sunshine of My Life." It's like that bam 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 bam. It has like that very.
Yep.
That's the whole tone. Whole I can't even say it. That's how weird. That's the whole tone scale. Stevie's a genius, and I think obviously it's like songs in the key of life. Like
That's it, man.
you can't go wrong with that. There was a younger gentleman who was very into Motown R&B I worked with, and he had never listened to that album. He was always like, I like Stevie Wonder. I'm like, go listen to it. He's like, I never listened to it. I'm like, you can't say you're into this stuff if you haven't listened to that album. And he came in the next day as if he experienced like some religious like coming. In any sense of the word you want to take that.
It's an experience.
Dude, that album is just absolutely ungodly. I love that.
Sir Duke is on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that song is, I mean, for the time and still today, it's just like the horn section and the horn line that's written.
That's one of the most memorable horn lines I've ever heard.
Yeah, it hooks you instantly, and it's not easy.
No,
by all means.
Yeah, the boom. That's
it.
It's such a good run.
But like you said, jazz.
That's
a jazz run.
That whole progression,
I mean,
is an incredible. Very, I would say, yeah. If you want to say that is like a slowed down, kind of like a Coltrane or Charlie Parker kind of run. Like that's what that feel is. 'Cause that's what he listened to,
right?
And he put it into the way he wanted. I mean, that's what we do in the band, where we listen to all stuff and we bring that to the table when we play,
right?
Which for everybody listening and watching, like, if you are very narrow-minded to one genre of music, you need to open that up. Because I was always just like rock and blues when I was young. And obviously pop stuff I didn't really. And then it's like once I started broadening that, that's when I got good. Or that's when I thought I was
That is some truth you're speaking right there. That's huge.
So, yeah, so if I was to go complete left field out of my range completely, one of my absolute favorite albums, and it is one of the albums I always consider to be perfect, is Carole King's Tapestry.
Ooh.
If you've ever listened to that album, that had all her big hits on it, because she was a monster songwriter. So everyone always has this kind of stance where not knocking anyone at all. This is just opinionated. Everyone always has this stance that Bob Dylan is the supreme songwriter in the world.
I'm smiling.
I know. I understand that. I understand that completely. Yes, he's very important to, the cultural expansion of music.
Yes.
I think it's very important.
Yes.
I favor Carole King. I honestly think that chick can write circles around him. I think she's absolutely brilliant. She was not only a songwriter for herself, and really the only reason she got into doing her own stuff was because she was writing songs, and people would say, this would sound better if you did it, and that's when she got into it. She wrote for Aretha Franklin. They were super close. She wrote Natural Woman. Like, that's a big goddamn deal. And then have like Aretha sing that was like a huge thing. Also, I'm for the first time ever watching through Gilmore Girls with my girlfriend. And Carole King does the theme song for that show. And
really?
I listened
I did
to
not
it,
know that.
And I was like, this sounds like a ripoff of Carole King. And I looked up and it
It's
was
her.
Carole King. So she ripped herself off pretty
Yeah.
good. And it's like her and her daughter doing a duet. And her daughter has this weird Gwen Stefani voice.
I did not know that.
I've never
and
watched
I've heard that
Gilmore Girls
song,
before, and now we're watching
yeah.
it because I didn't force her. I aggressively begged her to watch Scrubs is my favorite show, so we watched that through, and she was like, well, now we have to watch Gilmore Girls. Like,
It's only
fine.
fair. Yeah.
It's fun. It's cool, but Carole King does the theme song. I think she's awesome. That album is fabulous, and if anyone hasn't listened to that album, you need to. Like, I'm not necessarily a singer-songwriter person, but the band on that album is amazing. She's a fucking fabulous musician.
Yeah.
Really cool songwriter. I feel the earth move under my feet. I've wanted to do a version of that for years. Like, that's an awesome song.
Yeah, we need to do that.
She's a goddess among men. Like, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got over here. That's it.
Now, I mean, still continuing with the albums, there's a lot that are live albums.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Because I think you probably have a live one in mind that I would think of as well that you introduced me to that I had never heard.
Ooh.
And this also goes in the category of opinionated. Well, no, I think he's the better pop rock piano person over this pop rock piano person.
Oh, yeah, I got you now. I didn't know where this was going. But
Guys, I'm going to be completely real. If it's Billy Joel versus Elton John, I'm going to pick Elton John every single time.
anytime.
Nothing against old BJ over there. Like, he's cool, man. He's cool. He's
cool,
dude.
man. He's cool.
He's written some great stuff. Don't get me wrong. How do you top Elton, man? He's Sir Elton. And that
One of
was the
my
live album
favorites.
that I thought of.
Yeah, and when I mentioned it, I actually wasn't thinking about that one, but that one's one of my favorites. And I always get the name mixed up
It was
because
the
it's the
dated
date.
album.
It's like 17,
1771,
I think it might be. The album cover is all black, and it's like a silhouette of him playing piano, and it was recorded live
They were at like a college
in New
campus,
York,
I think.
somewhere, and it was like really like maybe one of the first or second time he's been to the U.S.
That was a lot of his big hits that weren't even hits yet because they weren't like recorded yet. Like that's almost like a demo album.
Yeah.
And it's just just piano, drums, and bass?
Yeah, just a
Dude,
trio.
absolutely phenomenal. Because that's a lot of people are always like, oh, he's so theatrical. And it's like, you listen to that,
Yeah.
and you actually get to hear how talented of an individual he is.
And the bass player on there, I think it's D. Murray. Don't quote me on
Is he
it.
playing upright on that album?
I don't know,
I
but
don't remember.
monster player
Oh, God,
with
yeah.
on that album. I was like actually stunned when I heard it, and I heard the bass part on it, and it is for that time it was recorded really, really well.
Yeah.
And there's a version of Honky Tonk Woman on there.
Yeah.
And it is,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's way better than like when the Rolling Stones did it.
Yes,
I think
would
that's who
agree,
did it.
1,000%.
That is a great album, and I think it's really underrated.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal player, and it's funny because I don't really gravitate towards live albums too much. I always kind of do more studio stuff because I like the studio aspect of it, and I like the engineering that goes into it. But what live album were you really think of, or live albums?
Well, I mean, most people are gonna say Frampton Comes Alive, but I never really got hooked onto it. But I think that we have to mention it because of it's huge.
It is. I mean, he's a phenomenal musician. I love him. I've got to see him once or twice. He's a great player and an awesome human being. He's definitely one of my favorite guitarists because he's very outside the box in that time period that he came up in.
Yes.
Which is also if you've never gotten to listen to so the movie's stupid, but there was the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie.
Yeah.
Not about the movie, but the soundtrack is cool because I out-Beatled myself when I was in high school and middle school because that's like all I listened to. Now it's the point where it's like I can't. It's too much for me. Like I'm just
I
like,
hear
okay,
you.
all right, get it out of
Yeah.
here. So I only listened to when people did versions of stuff. But the album was Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees doing all
That's
Beatles
awesome.
stuff, which is cool. And then that brings me, if we're talking about the Bee Gees, one of my favorite albums is the Saturday Night Fever album.
Okay.
Which is awesome because the Saturday Night Fever, the album they did was written for the movie, and that had like literally a lot of their big hits, and the Bee Gees wrote that album, and that's a big double album. That album's fucking great.
Yeah,
It's a disco album, and that's like everyone's like, stop talking about the disco albums. It's like,
Yeah,
that's all I
it's
got.
getting
That's all I
old.
got, kids. I'm sorry, I don't know what you want from me.
Right.
Um,
But the live album that I was thinking about, it's really kind of obscure, and you have to really know the group. But it was Little Feat, the band, and the album's Waiting for Columbus.
That's an awesome live album, and I have that album.
It is.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to that, and I still listen to it. It is so good. And the horn section was Tower of Power. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you go wrong with that?
You can't go wrong with that.
So I don't know I waited this long to tell you this because I probably never knew that was one of your favorite albums. But the gentleman who makes my guitar straps is actually really, really into Little Feat, and he actually knows the guys in the band 'cause he makes their guitar straps.
Like still to this day?
Yeah, which I think
That's
is
awesome.
great, which is cool.
Yeah, that's just it's one of my favorites, and I think who's the guitar player? Was it Lowell George?
Oh, I don't even know. Like they're a great
but like
band.
he
I don't
was
know
like one of the
anybody
early
in the
slide
band, but-
guitar players.
Yeah.
And the story was he I think it was like a model plane accident, and he hurt his finger, and that's how he started to play slide
Oh, that's kind of cool.
and kind of created that tone.
Oh, so one of the live albums that I really, really liked, by someone you're never, ever going to expect, I used to play the shit out of this record, was the John Mayer Trio album.
What?
Yeah, I know. So I remember when people were... I got, when I was in middle school, this DVD. It was the Eric Clapton's Crossroad Guitar Festival. And it
Yeah,
was like
I know the one.
The big, yeah. Looking at all the people, all the big heavy hitters, whatever. And then I see John Mayer's on it, and I was like, the fuck? Why is this guy on this? This is stupid. I'm like, the sappy love songs and stuff. And then, like, I watched him play, and I was like, this dude's really good. Like, he's
ridiculous.
very full of himself and very egotistical. But
The dude can play.
dude plays great. He's a fabulous player. So he came out with a live album called Try. It was the John Mayer Trio album. And he did the smartest thing possible. He did sappy, poppy songs for sad girls. Got incredibly popular. So now he could just do anything he wants, and everyone's going to eat it up. So he brought back a lot of that blues genre stuff. Three-piece band. It was Pino Palladino playing bass,
yeah.
who is one of my absolute favorites. Steve Jordan was his drummer, who was also one of my absolute
The
favorites.
man, yep.
And it was those three, and it is such a good album. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. Like, it was actually really good playing.
Right.
And I beat the shit out of that album. I listened to that all the time in high school on my anti-skip Walkman.
Oh, good. The anti-skip.
Because I was like
Splurged.
literally the last kid to get an iPod. So it was always that thing bumping around on the bus.
Right, yeah.
Or whatever. But it's... Live albums are interesting because they can either be really great or really not.
It's a roll of the dice.
I was always very, very picky with them because I think part of me was like, I don't really want to hear this crowd in the background. I want to just hear the band.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, wow, this group is so tight live. Like, this is...
That's the benefit of it is what you're hearing is exactly what has happened. It's not overdubbed in the studio. It's not cut and
Well,
paste,
that's the thing you understand. Like, there's a couple bands I won't make mention to who I've seen live where it's like they've done overdubbing in the studio. And
a lot of post work.
And you see them live, and it's like, oh,
Right.
oh, this is not very good. Yeah, that's not a great thing.
But if you have a live album and they sound just like they do in the studio,
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot right there.
One of my favorite albums ever, and it's one of our also shared people that we really like, is David Bowie's Let's Dance album. That album's awesome.
Yes.
The guitarist on that was Stevie Ray Vaughan, which I think is very cool. He played a majority of that album. That's very, very dancey, kind of cool pop album. That was neat because he, again, reinvented himself as he always did. And he just was good at it. Like when he did, he never half-assed it when he was like, all right, we're going to do a pop thing now, an 80s pop thing. And he just like transitioned no problem.
And he went full steam with it.
Yeah. He didn't fake it. Like there's a lot of people nowadays where it's like the one big artist thing. Like everyone every once in a while does. Like I have an alternate personality, and it'll be like Nicki Minaj does it, Beyonce does it, Gaga's done it. Who else? Christina Aguilera did it. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Where it's like when Bowie did it, he was like, "This is me now," and
He's all in.
He was in it, and it was like that was just incredible artistry. And don't get me wrong, like I adore Christina Aguilera. Like she's one of my favorites, but it's like just don't like what are you doing?
Right.
But yeah, I always thought that was kind of cool. So if we were now getting more into, 'cause I'm always into the dance stuff and the horn stuff, but if we were getting into more of like a rock kind of thing,
Ooh.
where would you go in that direction?
Rock. I mean,
And then you're gonna have to school me on some more country kind of stuff because that's not as. I mean, my country stuff's like old,
like actual country.
Yeah,
That's what you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Where it's like there's literally trains on the album covers.
right. It's a fine line today. It's
Yeah, I was gonna
it's very
say.
different.
Well, I was gonna say. So, what is your kind of whole take on it? Because I always, when I think of country music, I always think of it sounds like the country, like it's a train track beat, like it's that. What makes today's modern country and not southern rock?
It's a good question.
Because
I mean,
the whole thing I always thought is if you were to sing this without a southern draw, would it sound like a country song or would it just sound like a rock song? And that I always kind of I just want closure. Like I just want to know.
yeah, and I don't know if I have the right answer, but I can give you my
Put on your
thoughts on
boots,
it.
put on your cowboy hat, get some overalls, and put a big sprig of straw in your mouth, and let me know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or what would you think about that?
I mean, what I look for or what I want to hear is, I think my favorite is probably Chris Stapleton right now.
I know he's a big heavy hitter. Yeah.
Yeah, no surprise. And I just think it's the way he writes and the instrumentation he chooses and the lyrics.
Well, because he's a guy I know who goes in and knows everything about what he's doing album wise. Like he has the whole vision set. Like he's one of those.
Yeah, he's
which
an
is great.
incredible writer, such a unique vocalist, great guitar player. But to me, I think he probably gives you the closest thing to country now.
Like a genuine.
Right. Because, I mean, for me, when I listen to it, I think about that. I think about, traveling on a train and, whatever, and it's because he talks about that through his travels. And
Yeah.
I think one of the albums is actually called Traveler.
Nice.
But it's the instrumentation he chooses, I think, is everything. I mean, the drums are very, brushes, very simple.
Oh, cool.
At least the earlier stuff, and, very heavy acoustic guitar playing. And it's also the way it's recorded.
Yeah.
And now he records with one of my favorite engineer, Vance Powell. And
oh, yeah. Talk about heavy
big
hitters.
beard. If
Yeah.
you would see him. He's got plenty of Grammys now. But he does all of Chris's stuff now. And the way he records in the studio is he does the vocals and guitar at the same time.
Nice.
Never separate.
No, because that's a rarity because a lot of people will track the guitar first, then track the vocals completely
Right.
separate because you want to focus on both things.
Yeah.
But that's great. Yeah.
But I think that gives it character.
It gives it authenticity, which
Right.
is very important. That's
And
how they did it back then.
Exactly. And that goes back to the original country stuff, I think.
Yeah.
That's how they recorded things then.
Yeah.
And that is how he does it today. And they're all in big open rooms, and it's very clean recordings, but it's got a lot of grit to it and character, and I think that's the closest thing that you can probably get to it.
Oh, that's
in
awesome.
my opinion. I'm not, country's kind of new for me.
Yeah.
But a lot of it now you hear is that southern rock or pop, or now it's even hip hop. It's like it's
Yeah.
all integrated now, and I can't get on board.
So as far as like old school country stuff goes, one of my favorite albums, because I was a big Johnny Cash fan back in middle school and high school and all that. He had an album called Orange Blossom Special, and it literally did have a train on the cover and him sitting on the train. And that was a cool album because that's like the most genuine old school country stuff you could get. Really good players on that album. He had a couple sax players on that album, which was kind of cool. Like, dude, like really
nice.
weird, like country sax solo, if you can imagine what that sounds like. And in the liner notes, I was always looking. This brings it full circle. And in the liner notes, all of his songs, most of the songs on this album were written by this guy Robert Zimmerman. No clue who this dude was.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Bob Dylan's real name. So he wrote like almost all the songs on this album. They were songwriters for each other, and they would use like pen names or fake names for stuff.
That's
so like
so
it's
funny.
a Johnny Cash album, just almost all songs written by Bob Dylan, just in his style.
Right.
And it's like super country, like dirt road. Someone has a goat in the room. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
that. which is cool. But I deviated a lot because I did ask you originally about rock album kind of stuff. So if we were going back to that, where would you kind of go amongst that kind of stuff? Now that's like kind of a broad thing because it's almost just like, well, you know, it's even hard picking albums like this because we're just kind of jumping around like that. But I think it's when it's something you like and it's a good album, go for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, rock is a huge...
It's a big piece.
And it spans over a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm going to say anything that Soundgarden put out.
Yes, 1,000%.
Was some of my favorites. I mean, to me, that's like 90s rock. When I think about it,
You think Soundgarden?
I think Soundgarden.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree with that definitely.
I'm not so much Pearl Jam. You know, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that.
I was never
Willing
Pearl
to
Jam.
take the risk.
No, that's fine. You go out on that ledge, Will. I was never a Pearl Jam person either. I think the only thing, like I've listened, like I have a couple of their albums, and because it's like I want to listen to them and see what the hype is about. Like they're fine. I think the one song that I liked was they did that cover of Last Kiss, which was a big deal because it was that 50s death rock one where it's literally every 50s song where it's like girl gets in a car crash and dies.
Okay.
So, which was called death rock. That's the genre of music. It's from the 50s. And that was cool. But I think it's like the voice was always very tough for me to get into. Because it's like you hear Eddie Vedder speak, you hear Dave Matthews speak,
Yeah.
you hear any of them speak, and then it's like, why are you doing that to your voice? Why changing it so much? What are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing here?
Would
I
you-
mean, then you could argue, well, they do that in opera as well. So
Yeah,
I guess that kind of makes sense there. Soundgarden definitely though.
Do you have a specific album from Soundgarden, or
Christ, that's a good question.
I just think anything they do is great.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
I don't have any albums of theirs that I don't like.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I just think Chris Cornell's brilliant. Like he's fabulous.
One of my favorites.
He's definitely up there, and you know my big group of musicians who I admire a lot. Like he's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Missed the guy a lot.
Oh God, dude, he even had a second career essentially because he was doing the Audio Slave thing, and then he nailed the song for Casino Royale.
Yeah.
And that was phenomenal. And I was like, holy shit. And that brought him back completely. And then he did everything. Like,
Everything
again,
he touches
and that was great.
was gold.
And just, man, was just an incredible songwriter. He was a great player, too. Like, a lot of people don't remember. It's like, yeah, he was a great guitarist.
Yeah.
Like, because all I think is he was just the front guy. But it's like, no, the dude was a really good guitarist. Yeah, and I mean, I think as far as rock, it's just very vague in that point. Because there's a lot that I have. I really, really like... one of my favorite rock albums is Deep Purple's Machine Head, which is a super awesome album because just Richie Blackmore is one of my favorite guitarists, but like the keyboard playing on that album is like holy shit, like that is the best part of that album. Like I mean, but they were such a consistent band live and also in the studio. I believe that's only a 7 or 8 track album. Like it's not a big album, but that has like a lot of their big hits on it.
Yeah,
and just front to back, it's like every song is just a banger. And that always was cool for me with albums, where it's like you could put it on and there were no songs where it's like, okay, this is kind of a lull. I'm just getting through it.
No skips, right?
That was when you have a no skipper, that's a really big deal for anything like that. So one of my favorite no skipper albums.
I like how we coined it as
The no
skipper.
Yeah, yeah. When you get a real Gilligan in there,
Yeah.
with the no skipper, that was the Gilligan joke. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, somebody rang the bell.
Thank you, everybody. Gilligan, Skipper, whatever. I'll show myself out. One of my favorite bands is No Doubt. I adore them. Their early stuff was very cool because they were basically a ska band.
Yeah.
Or a funk band because they had a big horn section. And then they got poppy over the years, which is fine because I still liked a lot of their pop stuff because it was very kind of heavy dance stuff, which was great. But their second album was called the Beacon Street album, and their first 2 albums they recorded themselves. They weren't on like a label.
Right, I remember you saying
They
that.
just did it themselves. And that album, for me, their second one specifically, they had a horn section and everything. Like that album is a no skipper for me. I can just truck through that thing. Like every song is great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I've listened to it so much. That's like how I am with the Spice Girls albums, where I know the next song coming up. I know what key it's going to be. I always try to like start singing it or start humming it and see if I can match whatever key it's in. Like that's always one of my favorite things to do with that. But that I think is kind of a great point where it's you know, you don't want to skip over anything. That's what makes it such a solid album. And I think any of the ones we've discussed today, you can't listen to just one song. They have to be, that's the completeness to it. That's what makes it the full album as opposed to, I just like this song. I just like that single. It's the entirety. It's the album art. It's everything.
It's the album. Yeah, album art too is another big thing. But I think that's what makes them some of the best albums when you can play through all of it in its entirety.
Yeah.
When there's hit after hit or great song after great song, those are the ones that, you know, ring a bell for me.
Oh, that's
And my ultimate one is No Skippers Asia from Steely Dan. I mean,
I was waiting for.
Yeah,
Steely
I know.
Dan
I had to
to
wait.
come up with you.
I had to wait to the end.
I was going to ask if you had to coin like a favorite. If you
It's
had,
that one.
Do you think Age would be your favorite?
It's that one. Yeah.
Well, I would say you would talk about the super group of all super groups.
Yeah.
Where everyone is just an incredible player.
And I think that's what makes that album so great is that they were able to bring in
everybody.
Like literally, they would record one song and the next day be a completely different band.
Yeah.
And that's what that album is. It's just different band after band, and they're all killer players.
It's a monster.
Yeah, it has
album.
the best studio musicians of all time that are playing on that record. And it's probably the closest thing, I think, to perfection. Recording-wise.
Yeah.
It's you know, before like computers and things got really involved, and it's so precise. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is so crazy.
The artistry in it alone is just such a big deal. Obviously, the album, the cover is very iconic.
Yeah.
Like that I always think is really cool, too.
That's my No Skipper.
That's a great No Skipper.
It's a No Skipper.
I don't know if I have a favorite album. That's a really hard thing to coin.
And that's hard for me to say that that's my ultimate. It's just... It's my
you
go-to.
hold it very highly as opposed to others.
I never like to say something like I don't have a favorite drummer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a favorite album. I don't have a favorite song because it all changes with the wind.
Yeah.
You know, and plus, like we always talk about here, this is art. Who's us to say that this is perfect?
Yeah. I guess it's what means the most to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, like I had a favorite song for a decade, and then I was like, I don't like this anymore.
Right, you don't listen to it
doesn't do
anymore.
anything for me anymore as a favorite song.
Yeah.
And then that changed completely because I mean we change and that's the whole point. I mean like I have a lot of No Skipper albums. I have a lot of favorite albums. I have like probably a top 10, but that interchanges probably every week.
Yeah.
Of just anything. Like really high on my list is Yellow Brick Road. That's like way fucking up there for me. Like that's an awesome album. And I know it's like we already talked about Elton John, but it's like that's like for me that is a beautiful piece of like artistry. I mean Carole King's Tapestry, that's like always up there for me. And then like, you know, me getting flack from all the local guitarists, like the first Madonna album is like really goddamn good.
How dare you?
Sorry. You know, or like Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, that's huge for me. Or the second No Doubt album. Like there's a lot. One of my all-time favorites is the Fugees album, The Score, which had their cover of Killing Me Softly on it. And like I didn't talk about hip-hop stuff really in this, but that album's fucking art. And I have so many students who come to me all the time. They're always like, yeah, Nicki Minaj this or Cardi B this and female rapper that. And I'm like, listen to Lauryn Hill because she just dumps on everybody. Like she wasn't only a phenomenal writer, she was a phenomenal rapper, she was a phenomenal singer. They're from New Jersey. I mean, that's like the coolest thing. Like no one talks about them being from New Jersey. And they were like very important in the hip-hop world.
Right.
You know? And I wish more people kind of talked about that. But
now, do you have one that's more modern? What's probably the most recent? Because I know we talked about like nowadays it's very hard to have a complete album or it's mostly singles.
Oh man!
But what do you think's probably the most recent in time?
I have two that would be more recent. Bruno Mars's 24 Karat album. I think
you beat me to it.
You were thinking that one?
That's definitely
Well, you turned me on to that album. And I because I like him, and I think he's incredibly talented. I think the Super Bowl performance got me. That was the most I've ever watched of a sports thing. Was him doing the halftime show, and I was like, this dude's holy shit. Like, where did he come from? Because I heard
Glad
all
you
of his little
mentioned it.
sappy stuff, and then he went into like James Brown mode, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's it right there.
Ultimate like entertainer now.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Because he was a ghostwriter for years and years and years. But I think one of my more recent ones is Daft Punk's Random Access Memories.
Jeez, it's 2 for 2.
Were you thinking that one too?
That's yeah. I mean, those are really the only two that I can kind of come
Well,
up
Nile
with.
Rodgers is one of my absolute favorite musicians. That dude playing guitar on that album was just holy shit.
Yeah, and that album cleaned up.
Oh
at the
my
Grammys.
god, those guys are fabulous, and I wish
Yeah.
they got more credit. 'Cause everyone's like, oh yeah, they wear the Mega Man helmets
the
and do
helmets.
whatever, and it's like they know what
How
they're
long
doing.
ago was that? It's really not technically not that recent anymore,
It's got to be
but
5 or 6 years now.
yeah,
Um,
that one is potentially a no skipper from what.
That's definitely no skipper for me. I
Yeah.
love, like everything about that album is just really, really, really cool. I mean, as far as albums go, we didn't even get into things like soundtracks where you have stuff like that, where it's like you have
Good point.
any Tarantino movie soundtrack. It's like those are no skippers for me because I'm like
Yeah.
these are awesome. Like there's because there's an artistry in compiling songs for a soundtrack.
and Disney.
And well, we won't even start that.
Yeah.
one. That's a whole.
I shouldn't
nother
have said it.
topic. But I liked this kind of topic because it's very freeform, and look how much we kind of covered in this. You know, just
know.
bouncing from album to album, to artist, why it works. You know, and I like keeping it positive more so like this, where it's like the ones that we weren't like, oh, this album sucks and don't listen
Right.
to. It's all filler music. One
That's next
song's
episode.
good. That'll be the next one.
Yeah.
I like the positivity with this kind of thing. I think that's very, very important. As far as this all kind of goes. So my biggest thing, I guess, to kind of wrap this thing up or tie it up with a pretty bow is for you people watching and listening to us beat off at home, listen to something you're not familiar with. Go outside of your boundary. You know, whether you're a guitarist and you only listen to rock, try to break out of that. I know it's very hard because a lot of people are always, you know,
Creatures of comfort.
Creatures of comfort. They want to do things they know. That's why so many people go out to see cover bands and tribute bands, because it's what they know.
Right.
But, you know, to kind of break out from where you are, I mean, you might be surprised with what you listen to. It's going to help you grow as a player and as just a musician and just as a listener.
Yeah.
I think it's very important because there's some stuff you mentioned today that I've never listened to. I'm going to probably start.
Vice versa, and that's what I was going to mention as
Yeah.
like, you know, my signing off point was just, you know, sharing these stories and our favorite albums, and you might come across something that you now love to listen to, discover somebody new.
Yeah.
And just like you said, stepping out of your boundaries. I mean,
It's very, very
we're
important.
always sending each other stuff to listen
every
to.
every day. Every
Yep.
day. But I think that's a nice way to kind of close. Step out of those boundaries.
Yep.
Listen to what your friends are listening to and vice versa. Get everybody into music. That's the whole point of this art. It's to be into things. But, you know, I would just like to say for our 20th episode here, thank you
Yes.
guys so much for listening and watching us beat off at home. Hopefully you had a nice cup of tea over there.
We
If
did.
if you would like to support us on Patreon, go to charleslaurita.com. We have a Patreon button on there. It's $1 a month to help us put these videos together, and you get your name in the credits, which I think is pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
We're not doing a big old tier kind of thing with that. We're keeping it simple. But in closing, my name is Charles Laurita,
And I'm Will Sarver.
and we want to thank you guys so much again for beating off with us, and we will see you in the next one.
Ciao.
See you.